what are some of the ways you guys are advising companies with reopening? I mean, there's a lot of advice being put out there by many different people. A lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Even ourselves are pretty much every evaluating not only when but how. So, any advice you could provide us with would be really appreciated.
Yeah, so I'll take this question as I'm kind of on the front lines of this. You know, I think that as we said, I think that what we're advising people is to to obviously health is the most important thing, right? Making sure that you want to bring people back in a very methodical and thoughtful way, and to the extent that you can create environments that people feel safe in, they're going to come back to work. They're going to want to come back to work. I think people want to be with their fellow employees. They want to go and work in those environments where they feel like they're part of a corporate culture. Um, but we're advising people to be very cautious. As I said, we're not advising people to make dramatic changes in the layouts of their offices and replace all their furniture. There are ways to, and again, this is going to be a phased reoccupancy, right? You're not going to have 100% of the people coming back on day one. It's going to take some time over the next plus or minus 6 months before we get up to that occupancy level. So, you know, there, you're going to have. We're advising people to look at, alternate days or alternate week use. So we surveyed a lot of our employees, as Mark said, and those we're allowing people to volunteer, as to when they want to come back. So those people who want to come back, we're looking at that. We've done a lot of surveying of our employees, determining what they want and what their needs are, and then we'll be able to determine how we phase that in. Can you bring back 10 or 20% of your employees? Where are they going to sit? Look at your layout of your space. You can lay people out within safe distance. We came up with a 6-foot office concept where you're creating 6-foot spaces around each employee, and trying to give them tools to eliminate touch points, creating one-way circulation within your offices, in terms so that people aren't crossing each other as they go to the bathroom or they go to use conference rooms or other facilities within the space. We're advising people to take necessary precautions, increase the level of cleaning, provide your employees with tools and one of the things that we're doing is, and I'm sure you've heard about this, every employee that coming back is obviously going to get their hand sanitizer. But they're also going to get they're going to have a tool that they can use.
Hi,
Which is
I'm on a conference call for presentation with Koiba.
Go ahead, Mike. We'll edit that out.
But one of the things we're doing, and I've seen this with a lot of companies right now, is they're distributing to their employees a care package, which would include, various items that they can use on a daily basis. And one of those items is a copper keychain attachment, which has a pointer, which you can use to press buttons, elevator buttons specifically, so you don't have to touch them with your hands. And also, it's got a hook, so you can pull open doors. Things like that, which again, I think are going to give people a comfort level that when they come back, they can be safe. So that's the key, is making your employees feel safe.
Hey, Mike, so we represent a lot of companies in the lower middle market. So, one of the things we're doing as an accounting firm, as a firm, is we're using the same task force that we use for moving into our space here in Florham Park, and we're going to be using that task force to come up with ideas of everything that you just said to, what does the reopening look like? Because I think a lot of companies are, especially the smaller companies, are wondering, well, how do we go about doing this? And I think, when you have a bunch of people that have, we probably have a group of 6 or 7 people, all have different ideas, and we're putting those ideas together, and we're in the middle of formulating our plan. We don't want to rush back. We've certainly done a pretty good job as a firm in investing in technology, and we're very fortunate enough to have that luxury where we don't have to have people come back next week. And with everybody sort of things seem to be opening up, which is great, but we as a firm want to pause a little bit, but because of having that luxury of technology, we don't have to have people come rushing back. But I think it's important to organize in the right way. And the questions that we've been asking ourselves is, what is our corporate responsibility to our people? And we want to be very methodical on how we put that plan together. So I think, advising companies, especially companies that we serve, is to, get a group together and, speak with your advisors, speak with your attorneys, and figure out, what you need to do, and get a bunch of people together. You have some good ideas that will, lead you to a successful opening.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, one of the things that Cushman has done, and I think another aspect of that, is to actually survey your team, your employees, and get their input as to what how their experience is. What are they experiencing in this work and home environment? What do they need? Do they have all the tools that they need? And gauge their desire to come back, so you can really plan effectively. I think at the end of the day, I think everybody wants to return to normal, right? Everybody wants to get back to the way things were in their workplace and be with their colleagues and socialize. And at the end of the day, people have been operating very effectively from home. I think that's what people have found, and that's why people have been comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting comment because, companies who didn't invest in technology, like my brother, for example, had to go to work. There was no other way. And, his wife was very uneasy with him to go to work. And then she made him sleep in the basement with the dogs. And, because, look, I mean, in the beginning of this whole thing, I mean, the world was, sky was falling. All right. There's no question. And, it kind of parlays in what we're seeing in the demand in the market right now is companies who didn't invest in technology, and were companies like my brother's companies, who had to come to work. Right. And, be faced with, am I going to get sick? And companies had to put people to work. But, what the good thing is now is I think people are and we're not, and WIS as an accounting firm wasn't in that situation because we had invested in technology. But I think people now are starting to say, we don't want to be in that situation again. So as an accounting firm, we're really seeing an uptick in, in our advisory services and helping companies, not only from, accounting technology, but, how do we, marketing, embracing CRM systems, embracing LinkedIn, I mean, obviously you think, we're an accounting firm, the first thing you think about is accounting, but companies are looking, procurement, all those companies that have made those investments before the pandemic broke out had a much easier time than companies that did not. And I think, one of the things that, we're going to be helping clients with for a very long time in all aspects of their business is technology.
Yeah, and again, those are the winners, right? Those are the people that have been able to thrive in this environment and have that technology that allows their people to continue to do their job. But I do think at the end of the day, that's the whole question about productivity working from home, right? There's all the distractions. Like right now, I'm listening to the guy cutting the grass outside, right? Dog's gonna run in, and oh, you know what? I'm gonna run to Home Depot. I gotta pick something up.
Hey, Mike, I found myself by my pool about 2:30 last week each day, so that was a bad sign.
Right.
I told Paul, I said, I was talking to a couple of our people here. I said, that's the law of diminishing returns.
No, listen, again, I think, to me, the first 2 months, people were working hard. And I do think you're running into the summer, that this thing happened. The weather still wasn't great, although it was just starting to get nice. Summer's coming. The productivity is going to go down naturally. It goes down naturally anyway. But if you've got the majority of working from home, it's inevitable. And I do think employers are gonna they're gonna need to ramp up, right? They've had a down period here. They want to get back to business. They're gonna need to, sales are gonna need to increase in the second half of the year to make up for this loss. They're gonna want their people back in at the end of the day, because that's where they're most productive. So it's just about creating an environment where people feel comfortable. Again, it's going to be challenging, as Mark said. Waiting for elevators. Not so bad in the suburbs. It's much more challenging in urban environments where you have thousands of people coming into the building at between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. So it's about phasing, staging start times for people, staging days of the week to come in, but getting those people back to work is really important, and getting them into an environment where they're comfortable. So, we have workplace consultants that this is what they do, and they're really coming. We're all working together to come up with best practices to enable people to get back.
Yeah, and that's good, Mike. The other thing I've been thinking about a lot more too is just the amount of regular feedback that people really need, and how difficult that is to do, from home. And the people that I work with, I try to, as much as I can, to speak to them on a regular basis, because truly people really need feedback, and they want it. And it's easier to do feedback, when we're all together in an office. But with that said, again, it's just sort of on the technology side as well, is embracing some of these systems that are out there. We use the a 360 feedback technology, and I think it works quite well, where people are able to get feedback from all different levels of the organization. So I hear what you're saying. I think people are going to want to be back to work, but I think the world is going to change in a way forever. Is that what we have to, I've been saying this is an opportunity for change management, and how do we change as a result of this? And using something like feedback systems, I think is I've mentioned this to a bunch of my clients and advising them on how they manage their workforce from home. And I feel like that feedback is pretty good, and the use of that technology is a good way to have change management.
And listen, absolutely. And one of the things that I've recognized in this environment and that's helped me is this format right here that we're on, right? Mm-hmm. I've actually increased the communication with my team in this environment. And you sort of needed to, right? I purposely had meetings with my team 3 days a week, whereas I may have met with them once a month before, and you're staying in front of people, and that technology has been fantastic for that. I mean, it's really been enabled, and I think that's why people have been successful. Is they've been able to stay in front of their teams, communicate even more with this technology. So there are a lot of positives, and a lot of positive changes, I agree, are going to come out.
What are some of the questions that tenants like ourselves should be asking our landlords as we evaluate how to reopen effectively?
Yeah, this is my wheelhouse. This is what my life's been for the last 3 months. We went through, we manage about 20 million square feet of property in New Jersey, and Cushman & Wakefield, I think, has been at the forefront of advising clients on the different phases of this. The initial phase obviously was, how to deal with reporting COVID cases, and what do you do, and who gets notified, and how do you notify them, and how do you notify other tenants in the buildings if there was a problem with that. That was the first phase. That's sort of, and then you went into the reduced occupancy phase, and we advised our landlords how to reduce expenses when you had virtually no occupancy in the buildings. And now we're in the reoccupancy preparation phase of this. And so we've been advising landlords from experience. As Mark said, we manage a very significant amount of property in China, and China reopened several months ago. So we were able to take those experiences learned there and bring them in and put them into our playbooks here in the US. And so for tenants, I think the most important thing that is on everybody's mind is air quality, right? You know, is the building's air conditioning system set up appropriately to ensure a safe and clean environment? And that's the number one item. You know, you want to make sure that the landlords are doing everything they can and making the appropriate adjustments to increase fresh air, to upgrade filtration systems, you know, to the extent they can. You know, depending on the age of the building, every building is different, and every air conditioning system has certain capacity for filtration. You know, older systems, you can't filter as much because it's just too impactful on the performance of the system. We're building AC systems to provide better levels of filtration. You know, there's also air purification systems that are out there that people are looking at investing in, and some of those may make sense in certain instances. But it's important to work with have an open conversation with your landlords. Make sure that they're taking appropriate action. Making sure that their systems. The other thing that we're seeing that's very effective that was recommended in China were what's called building flushes, where you're basically before and preparing for reoccupancy, you're basically flushing the building with fresh air, you know, circulating the entire building, bringing fresh air. It's a little tricky this time of year now because of the humidity levels. We've seen some tenants, some larger tenants who have more leverage with their landlords request that that's done on a daily basis, which means that the landlord has to basically shut down the system, the cooling, bring in fresh air, circulate the entire building, and then start their systems up again. Really hard to get to optimal temperature by morning. So, but there are ways to do it. You can do it weekly. I don't necessarily think it's necessary to do that on a daily basis. Maybe you may want to do that on a weekly basis. Every building is different, but you know, the other things that are important, again, one of the big things to me, and Mark talked about it a little bit before, about deliveries and vendors coming into buildings, right? People want to make sure that the only people coming into buildings are people who are employees and that they're proving that they're healthy. So, you know, I think that landlords need to make sure that the tenants know, and the tenants need to be comfortable that anybody who's coming in the building working on the behalf of the landlord has passed a health test, or has verified that they're healthy, they're wearing the appropriate PPE, they're minimizing the time they're in the buildings. The other thing that's really important, right, is package delivery, food delivery and package delivery. We've been advising our landlords, you don't want the UPS guy coming up and getting in the elevator and going to every tenant space like we have to do. And same with the mail guy. Anybody who's delivering, owners should be creating drop-off areas where these package deliveries are going into a space that's relatively close to the entry to the building. They go in, they drop it off, the tenant can come down and pick their packages up, so these folks aren't circulating through the buildings. Again, minimizing occupancy in bathrooms. That's the other big ticket item that people are looking at, is how do you do that? How do you control it? You can create ways to indicate if the bathroom is in use. You know, we've seen instances where tenants have, depending on how if they're metal doors or wood doors, you can have a magnet, and every employee has a magnet. When they go in and use the bathroom, they put the magnet on the door, they go in the bathroom, somebody knows somebody's in the bathroom occupying, they wait, come out, you take your magnet off the door, the next person puts their magnet on the door. So there are ways to, you know, sort of minimize touch points and minimize contact points in bathrooms. You can block off, if you have a lot of fixtures, a lot of sinks, a lot of toilets, you can, you know, lock off every other toilet so people have that 6-foot spacing to extend. So a lot of different things we're advising people. Again, we're not suggesting that landlords spend the money to go and make, you know, all of their elevators, you know, sort of hands-free. It's extremely expensive programming to do that. There are ways to do it very simply with either, you know, one of my solutions was, and I've seen pictures of it being done, you could literally put a foam board of toothpicks in an elevator, and employees can take the toothpick out, use it to press the button for the toothpick,
Oh my God.
things like that. You know, simple, inexpensive. You know, we don't. It's not. You don't want landlords to have to spend exorbitant amount of money for something that may be temporary.
Yeah, I saw this thing on like Instagram. There's like a key thing, and it's like your personal thing, and then you hit, and then
Exactly. That's what I was saying. That's what a lot of people are going to be listening that to their employees, so they can use that press button. So there's a lot of things that people can do, but to me, the most important thing really is is making sure that that your owners are taking the appropriate steps with respect to their air conditioning systems and the appropriate adjustments to those systems to ensure that you've got the best quality air in the system.
Cool. Thank you. That was great.